Hello there. Hello, everyone. We are back for episode 13, special one, because this one will be mostly dedicated to an Nvidia, a small AI company that's reporting on Wednesday. And then we'll talk a little bit probably about the horrendous day in the stock market. So first up, hello, Jose. How are you?
Pretty good, Neil. How about yourself, man?
Well, pretty good if I don't look at the portfolio.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I haven't looked. I didn't even know it was much of a red day today. So I appreciate you bringing that bad news to me on the first thing we decide to talk about together.
My pleasure. It's the penalty for 2 weeks ago.
And just shout out to everybody. I mean, we got Renato, we got Steady, we got GSR, we got Andrew, we got Webb, we got my boy Matthew, we got Andre. We got KR, Sarah. So appreciate everybody for the support coming through. Hope everybody's doing pretty good. And like Neil mentioned, pretty red day it seems, but long-term investor, this is just noise, right, Neil?
I mean, if you want to see exactly what's happening, here it is. Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. I mean, we do see a lot of green, but it does seem like tech companies are taking a major hit. And then if you look at healthcare and some other things right here, communications, processing, this or whatever, those are still green. So tech-heavy investors like ourselves are probably getting hit. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I think the anticipation is quite big for tomorrow.
Agree, Neil. I mean, I just always find it weird when Apple's green. I don't know why Apple's ever green. Not that I hate that company, but maybe I hate that company a little.
Yeah, I mean, for the growth that they're showing, they should be red. But then again, they did say they're going to invest $500 billion in the US in the coming year. So maybe that's why.
So Neil, I obviously have my head stuck in the semiconductor sand most of the time. What is really happening today? Is there anything that maybe you might know? I know sometimes you follow the macro a lot better than me. So any real reason for this downturn right now?
So it's macro related. Consumer sentiment is lower than expected, and so that is dragging the market down. Of course, tariff talks and all of that, inflation. Are we going to get rate cuts? Are we not going to get rate cuts? Uncertainties, basically. But then again, if you listen to Tom Lee, I think Friday he was already on CNBC because there was a report, a survey that came out from the University of Michigan on consumer sentiment. And he basically said how these things can be politically manipulated. If you look at what that survey said a couple of months ago, Well, on the Democratic side of the folks that do the survey, things were much better than what they responded today. And then on the Republican side, it's basically the opposite. So these types of things can be manipulated, it seems. Hopefully, the Fed has better data to focus on.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I don't know if you, again, my head's just been stuck in the semiconductor sand for the past few days, especially with Nvidia earnings. But one of the things I saw that's really impacting at least some of the tech players is there have been reports that Microsoft was canceling some data center leases. I did do a video about that and why I believe it's really the market, especially before earnings. I feel like, Neil, when there's such a revolutionary thing that's happening, just like I believe AI in the long term is going to be massive. Everybody wants to find that crack, that secret crack that's going to break the thesis. Because just like how in bullish in a bull market, you want to be that one bear that finds that right reason. See, I told you. And I feel like that's happening here a lot with the AI space, especially with Nvidia. The company doing so well, everybody wants to be that one investor or analyst that finds that missing piece that everyone's overlooking. So any thoughts on those discussions, Neil? Have you done any, have you looked at it?
Yes, I think both of us talked about it. I think you did a great NVIDIA summary. If you want, you can show because I think it comes from your newsletter, right? The summary, the big summary from everything you need to know about NVIDIA's earnings report.
Yes. Oh man, right now I'm slow with screen sharing.
No, it's fine.
But
But no, but the TD Cohen note was already refuted by Microsoft. So yeah, I mean, it's funny because there's always going to be like that one or two analysts that really want to make some noise before a big earnings report. But yeah, if Microsoft already says that it's BS, then I rather go with what Microsoft said. Plus, if you look at the capex plans from most big tech companies, I don't think they're going to spend 80 billion, 100 billion, 60 billion just for the sake of it.
yeah, I agree, Neil. And I also kind of talk a little bit about it in my video. I mentioned that Microsoft did something pretty interesting these past few weeks with OpenAI. I mean, I feel like if you listen to a lot of the interviews where Microsoft CEO has gone outside of your traditional earnings call and stuff like that, the way I see this Altman and Microsoft CEO relationship is Altman is just really looking for the ultimate sugar daddy per se, right? The ultimate person that's going to give him all the capacity and compute power that it needs to continue to innovate. Um, Pretty much thanks, Tesla, for example, with XAI, it seems like XAI has the ultimate sugar daddy and just builds massive data centers as quick as possible. But Microsoft needs to think not only for that, it also needs to think about the overall growth and future potential. So eh, I Microsoft allowed OpenAI to go and search for another sugar daddy, per se. And that other sugar daddy was SoftBank and Oracle with the Stargate project. If there is any talks of future cancellation of leases, in my opinion, it was just that, hey, look, Microsoft is still going to grow based on their own projections, but maybe they might be cooling off on some of the projections they were putting for OpenAI. And it's not necessarily an end to the chip market. It's just a transfer to it. So it's like, instead of maybe Microsoft leasing it, it's going to be maybe some other player like that Stargate initiative. So I think OpenAI just really needs a massive sugar daddy right now. And another interesting thing, Neil, that I would like to share is Microsoft CEO kind of mentioned that with investments in AI, they're actually all being very conservative. And Jensen has talked about it all right now, where they're not all buying as much chips as they can, because there's no point in buying as many Blackwells as next year you're going to have like the Blackwell Ultra and or the Rubin 2 years from now. So that the cadence that Nvidia is doing is forcing these companies to be somewhat conservative in their spending. It's pretty interesting how this market is evolving.
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, there was also that Satya Nadella podcast, well, appearance on a podcast when he talked about we are still waiting to see how AGI and AI is really going to make GDP growth reaccelerate or accelerate. Um, so it's interesting. I mean, they're all investing heavily. I just don't see them doing that just for the sake of doing it, right? We've also seen Alibaba yesterday announce that they're going to invest, I think, 52 or 56 billion dollars in AI, in cloud. So definitely we are not at the end of this, let's call it hype cycle or whatnot. And Alibaba yesterday went down close to 10% because of that. I mean, I'm a shareholder today. It's probably one of the only stocks that that is green in the public portfolio. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but I think we still have a long way to go.
And definitely, Neil, and it seems like right now a lot of the stocks that I saw down were kind of maybe a little bit more in the speculative play. I know Tempest AI was down a bit after reporting earnings. We also had Hims and Hers down a nice amount after earnings. So um, there might be a lot of noise, as I do believe some of these in social markets, because I believe a lot of the social accounts have been following some of these stocks. Someone mentioned here that they just checked their account and it's down a lot less than expected. Again, I haven't looked. I'm not even going to try opening my account, but I'm hoping I'm in that same category as them, where it's down a lot less than I expect it to be.
Yeah, I mean, for Hims, for those that are interested, you can go watch the video on the channel. Why it's down? I mean, it's one of those stocks. Great quarter, beats across the board. Guidance is great as well. Although guidance, they did put a $725 million part of it that might not be achievable because of the FDA and stuff like that. But even if you remove that, they're expected to grow 39% year over year for the fiscal year, which is still great. But when your stock last week was already up 180% year to date, you start to understand why it might be time for it to cool off a little bit.
All right, definitely, Neil. Let's see any questions that we can take. I saw you answer one on text, but I want to hear it. Um, I want to hear it live, Neil. So someone asked if you're adding to your AMD position. I can't find the question anymore to pull it up, but are you adding right now, Neil, to AMT?
Yes, yes. And if we go even below 100, I'll add even more because it's still a small position. I started a couple of weeks ago, so I'm not. I don't have a tree with cash laying around. I have a cash position, which I like the way it's looking. And days like today, like Friday, red days, big red days, usually good times to start adding to some good positions, and especially those that I want to have more shares of. I think right now I have 55 shares or something like that. Eventually, I want to reach 100 shares and maybe even more. And if the stock goes down, it just makes it cheaper for me to get to that amount in the future. But yeah, on days like today, I guess a lot of things are attractive.
Yeah, definitely, Neil. And I know Pete doesn't care about me because he didn't put Jose in there. But if anybody wants to know, um, unfortunately, because we have that partnership with not unfortunately, but because we have a partnership with the Fool, if I mention a stock in some other platforms, I can't buy it for some time. And AMD is a company I keep getting questions about, so I haven't been able to purchase. But at these levels, I would definitely be adding more. Luckily, though, Neil, I do have a big position already, so it's not one that is killing me to add. But I definitely would have liked to be purchasing at these levels. Another one, Daniel, that I really do enjoy right now is this one. What Linux is mentioning. They're just now starting a position on Google. Anything under 185 is a buy. Anything under 180, low the boat long term. I mean, $5 price difference for Linux. I don't know if one would be a low the boat type material. But yes, I'm personally very bullish. I think we both are, right? Very bullish in Google at these levels right now. Personally, if I can only buy one cloud service provider, it would be it would be Google for me. If I could only buy one this year based on current prices, Google. I mean, they just recently announced that I mentioned that one of my growth bullish opportunities is I think they're going to grow massively in the cloud space. And just yesterday, they announced like a multi-billion-dollar, multi-year contract with Salesforce. So I think we're going to continue to see that. So very bullish for Google. Any thoughts there, Neil?
I agree. I agree with what you said. I agree with this comment. Yeah, I mean, it's Amazon. Amazon in my core portfolio is already the second largest position because this one I started. I mean, I think the trade war of 2018, if you remember that one, it was a long time ago. So trade wars happens in the past and things went up anyways. But I started Amazon there. So with Google, we had great opportunities after their failed presentations and Gemini and what was it called before, Bard or whatever. So keep on growing, keeps growing this position. And if the stock market wants to punish them every single time, I'll take it, because it's true that we don't know for sure what's going to happen in the future with their advertising revenue because of search, because of all of these chatbots and all of that. But so far, I don't see any cracks in that business. What I do see is a growing YouTube platform. What I do see is a growing cloud platform as well, plus a call option on Waymo's success. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
what's not to like?
Neil, I believe Tesla, is Tesla still your biggest position? Or thoughts here? There's a few people that kind of talked about Tesla. We saw Mark mention they picked up a few Teslas here. Pat mentioned Tesla testing $300. Any thoughts on current price points? Any thoughts on adding? I know it's already a big position for you, but when would you consider maybe a nice opportunity for this giant?
Yeah, so Tesla is still the largest in the core portfolio, but now not by much because, well, the others have appreciated quite a lot in the last couple of years, and Tesla last 3-4 years or so haven't done much, but there was that dip closer to $110, so that was great. But yeah, I won't lie, I did take profits when it was above $400 a couple of weeks ago, um, because it didn't make sense. The quarter was really not that good of a quarter. The stock had doubled since the election because of that connection between Elon and Trump. So it's great to see that stock go up, but then again, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. Like, I have enough shares, so if I can take profit because the stock market said, you know what, let's push this one up, I'll take my profits and I'll put it in something that went down quite a lot because the stock market doesn't like it, but that the business makes sense. And I do like it way more, closer to $300. If we get even below it, I don't know if we will, then maybe I'll add more shares. But right now I'm more focused in building up the other positions that I've started not so long ago, the AMDs, the Microns, and even Uber. I don't think I'm and an Alphabet, like we said. So plenty of opportunities out there, I guess. Since Tesla has been a position for me since 2019, it's already quite big. I rather focus on the other things. Plus, there is a lot of uncertainty around Tesla, negativity, whatever you want to call it. So we'll see. We'll see. It's not like I'm bearish or I have two shares. It's still the number one. So if it goes up, I'll feel it, and if it goes down more, I'll definitely feel it as well.
Yeah, definitely, Neil. And I think this is actually a great segue to this question Greg just mentioned, Neil. So what do you think would raise the automotive market? Seems like people don't have disposable cash as much these days, except the very rich. Is that the main factor? And Neil, definitely, I mean, I'm outside of Tesla, right, which obviously is dependent, at least right now, in the automotive space. There are a few semiconductor companies that I follow that I believe are bullish in the long term of things, but right now are pretty weak because the automotive space is weak. And I believe eventually this market will turn around, but I don't know. This is a question that I have very similar to Greg, and maybe you might have some great insight here. What do you think is going to be this turnaround story for the automotive market? I mean, how much lower do in certain markets you might think like, hey, look, maybe interest rates need to drop even more and more before maybe we start to see a pickup in pricing. Um, and then I personally believe that maybe as cars get a little bit smarter, not necessarily like there is a laptop cycle or mobile cycle, but maybe there might be, maybe eventually technology just improves a lot, so much better that it just makes sense to kind of have that newer vehicle. But any thoughts here? And I would definitely love to hear from the people watching too. This is a question I've been trying to really try to understand of how can I be prepared? What are some of the signs that the automotive market is turning?
So I think still the number one is rates coming down. That would make your purchase cheaper, because cars are not a small ticket, right? Purchase ticket, it's still costing you quite a lot. So I would say rates coming down would definitely help. Rates coming down would definitely help the overall market. Um, so if we can do that, that's fine. Then consumer sentiment should start to go back up. So we'll see. I think we're going to get more rate cuts this year than anticipated. I think what's the anticipation, two for the year. I think it's going to be a minimum of two, might have three or four. But yeah, if we want to see a revitalization of the automotive sector, I'm not talking here just as a Tesla shareholder. You can see the numbers for everybody else, right? Rivian, super small company, they don't even expect to grow year on year deliveries. So there is definitely an issue, an affordability issue, maybe demand issue, I don't know. But rates coming down definitely helps the automotive sector, the real estate sector, so the builders especially. So we'll see. But that's basically what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and Neil, one thing about the difference. Normally, I used to start with the top of the line in questions, so whoever asked the question first. But I'm just going to be jumping around, so even someone who might have just asked the question recently, I'll kind of pull up some of their thoughts as well. But we can see here, Ray, Neil kind of mentioned that, hey, look, increased consumer confidence and reduced interest rates could be bullish on that. Then Pat kind of mentioned, hey, for the automotive market, BYD is a beast. I personally don't follow it, but I hear a lot about it. Vin mentioned Lee Auto, the price go up 12% yesterday. Today haven't checked. So definitely, I mean, I think it's a market that eventually will turn around. I just don't know when it's going to do that. But in the semiconductor space, I think there's a lot of bullish opportunities as the chips that go into the automotive solutions can go into the robotics market as well. So yeah, Neil, I see you just posted here Supermicro deadline today. No news yet. I know many people were asking Supermicro. Neil, do you think? I think we're gonna get, if we get any news, it's gonna be at the end of the day. I don't think I management for me rubs the wrong way in Supermicro, and I think they don't really care too much. If they did, they would have done it a lot earlier. I think they're just waiting for that final second.
I mean, it's crazy, right? I have a feeling this is going to be either a buzzer beater, like at the end of the day, bam, a file gets released, and we're like, okay, after hours the stock goes up a lot. But they're really, really cutting it like short. Like this is the last day, the last couple of hours. There's still nothing. There has been, I think, someone posted that they are hiring. Now they're hiring for some personnel, for some bureaucracy stuff, which was quite strange. But yeah, I mean, today is the day. If they don't file it today, they will get delisted. There's no extension. There's nothing. That doesn't mean they're going bankrupt. It's just not going to be listed on the main exchanges, and that's about it. But it's pretty crazy that we're talking about this as a $30 billion company. In 2018 was a much smaller company, but now a $30 billion company, and you're reaching the same point yet again. It's like, we're not shareholders, but if we were, would be super super pissed, I would say.
Yeah, definitely, Neil. And just a quick thing, I was just kind of seeing through the chat real quick. Our goal for this chat, Neil, I saw there was maybe a few members kind of arguing a little bit. Our goal for this chat is to be a discussion place, right, Neil? So feel free to share as much thoughts as you can. We're learning as much from you as you guys probably, hopefully, are from us. So we definitely want this to kind of be a community where you can ask questions and you can also share your thoughts, because I'm pretty sure that other viewers would also love to hear not just our thoughts, but other investors in this market. So just wanted to bring that up. And Neil, I just pulled up that super chat from Raha. Any
Yeah.
thoughts there, Neil?
First of all, thank you very much for that. What are your views on First Solar and Enphase? So I did talk about both of those companies at the end of 2024, seeing that as we enter 2025, those can also be a contrarian trade as interest rates come down. These should get a bit better. And Enphase actually reported an okay earnings report. I don't think the stock has moved much on the upside since. First Solar reports, I believe, also tomorrow, I think. With First Solar, you're not really depending on residentials and all of that, they go to countries and governments and talk big contracts. So it might be, let's say, a better move. With Enphase, there are some great options out there, like the options that you buy, not options, for like leaps for 2027 that are really not that expensive. So I will have to look again at those two stocks after First Solar reports. But all in all, if you want exposure to the energy industry or sector, I think those two names could definitely be that, or just go with Tesla, because Tesla Energy is also growing extremely rapidly.
Thanks for that, Neil. I don't really have any thoughts there. We had another super chat here from Lib. They invested $7,000 with a 5 times lever Nvidia. Best of luck. I mean, I'm not one to play in the leverage space, but obviously, if you're right, then that will be a nice return. So, best of luck is all I could say.
I mean, I my video yesterday, I did a prediction. I made a prediction. I said it's going to surge after the earnings report. So hopefully my prediction is correct. Although I had to film that video twice because there were some sound issues, and maybe that was already a sign from some higher power to tell me, you don't post it. Don't post it.
We don't need too much great energy in there. Neil, there was another question. I can't find it, but it was one kind of asking. Oh, here we go. Kaz, a few minutes ago, Jose Najarro, do you think Nvidia is able to report $40 billion in revenue tomorrow? My guess is guidance of 42 billion. I, historically, right, Kaz, they've been growing at $4 to $5 billion per quarter. The reason they're able to grow that level is their revenue growth has a roof. At the moment, it's a moving roof, and that moving roof is made by TSMC. So last quarter, I think they did $35 billion. So 4 to 5 billion would be around 39 to 40. So I think I think we're going to be closer to the 39 billion in revenue. 40 is definitely possible. But Neil, there's some bullish analysts that believe it can do 42 billion. I think 42 is too bullish unless TSMC really did increase capacity of their CoWoS solution. And I don't think that's the case. I haven't heard from my channels any true growth right now. So 40 billion is possible. I think I'm going to expect more like 39 to 40 within that range. Yeah, for those that are not familiar, Nvidia guided 37.5 and the consensus is about 38.2.
Yeah. I think 40 is achievable. I mean, if you remember, of course you remember, you are the Nvidia guy and the semiconductor guy. They did say that they expect to deliver more Blackwell in Q4 than previously expected. So it's a much bigger ticket item. So I don't know. We've seen those jumps, those $4 or $5 billion jumps each and every quarter. So I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised to see a $40 billion quarter, and to be honest, maybe even a beat on guidance as well. Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
forget what
definitely
guidance.
achievable.
Mhm. I forget what guidance is expected to be by analysts, but yeah, I do think they're going to be very similar on both ends. There's this pretty cool question here, Neil, from Click. So their portfolio is 40% Nvidia, 25% AMD, 20% Micron, and 15% Microsoft. Any suggestions for diversification to have something as a fallback for when some of the above have fluctuations? Thoughts, Neil?
I mean, 40% Nvidia. I mean, depends on how long you're holding that, but if you're holding it for a couple of years now, you're probably doing quite well. Um, it depends. Diversification, it really depends. It really depends. Like we talked about it the last time. In my head, if you have a lot, like $1 million portfolio, you could have multiple positions, and this wouldn't matter that much. But it's really up to you. What type of companies do you like? Clearly, you like tech and semiconductors. So just buying another company for the sake of buying another company, I don't think it's the way to go. If you're comfortable owning Nvidia, AMD, Micron, and Microsoft, then I don't see why you shouldn't stick with that. Have some cash on the side, and then really focus on what you want in your portfolio. That's about it.
Yeah.
I'll close it out by saying, because last week we had Celsius jumped 30 something percent on Friday. Now it's already lost all its gains, obviously. But I had a small position in that. I took 55% off the table after that jump. And people are like, why do you do that? Don't you believe in it? I'm like, it can work out. Can work out. I think the acquisition is a smart one, but I'm losing interest. I've lost interest before. I'm down on that position anyways. I'm losing interest, and I want to increase the other positions where I'm way more interested, such as an Uber or an AMD or even more Alphabet, for example. So it's really up to you, because then essentially you have to follow the companies in your portfolio. And if you can't be bothered to listen to an earnings call or presentation, then there's no point of owning it.
Yeah, my thoughts very it seems like this person's very tech centric, very AI centric. I feel like if this is a stock that can definitely move very much with the AI market, as long as you understand that. And it seems like you really want to hold limited amount of positions. I think if I had a portfolio like this, Neil, in forms of diversification, I think my diversification would just be building up a cash position because while I am long term on all these stocks here, I do believe in the short term, all these stocks can definitely see some crazy pullback. So for me, I think my diversification in this would be to build a cushion cash position. If I am very kind of if these are companies I follow to the T, and just wait for opportunity to add more. But again, these are just our thoughts, Click, and not advice at all. Would definitely love to hear what maybe some of the other players or members here would say.
Agreed. There are a couple of questions about PayPal or PayPal, as some would like to call it, because there already, I think now it's over, an investor day today. They always choose to either report earnings on an extremely red day or an investor day on an extremely red day. And I mean, I didn't watch the start because I missed that, but it's a turnaround story that will take a little bit more time than expected, I guess. I liked what I heard from the segments that I did listen to. I think they're really turning this huge ship around. And in my opinion, they have a huge moat, which is their two-sided network, merchants, customers, the data in between. And if the stock market continues to punish them, they will just retire more shares every year, $6-7 billion less. It's I think in 10 years' time they could take this company private at this rate. Of course, if nothing changes in the stock price. But I see some comments talking about, are you adding, are this? To be honest, it's also a very big position for me already. But if we go even lower, under 70, I would be surprised if I don't push on that buy button, because it's essentially again priced for zero growth, and they said they expect non-GAAP EPS growth for the midterm or for the mid to long term of over 20%. I guess the market doesn't care about that, but I do.
Thanks for that, Neil. Let's see if we have any other questions coming in. We have a lot. And just before, I mean, appreciate all the support we're getting here. If you guys haven't, make sure to hit the thumbs up, make sure to hit the subscribe button really quick. And yeah, definitely it sucks to be a red day, Neil, right? But I think as us long-term investors, um, I'm gonna say I haven't looked at my portfolio. I think it's just going to be noise at the end of the day. And this is the time where, hey, look, maybe I might start looking into adding some overall stocks that hopefully I haven't mentioned. But Google is definitely on top of my list recently. We've had a few questions. I think they might have, I can't find them, but we were getting questions on maybe some semiconductor equipment plays. ASML was one that was mentioned. Applied Materials was mentioned. I think we've safe to assume we've discussed the semiconductor equipment space and we're pretty much bullish in the long term. In the short term, it's still very dependent on some demand here and there. But in the long term, you have the tailwinds of multiple new fabs, new technologies like transforming to 2 nanometers and below, and just new type of products like HBM and stuff like that. So there's definitely a lot of growth opportunities in the equipment space. ASML is one I normally don't look at, Neil, and we realized I think last week that this is a company that has restarted buying back their shares, and I found that pretty bullish.
Yeah, I mean, we'll check back on the buying back share thing maybe next week, so we we can see on a, let's say, short, long-term view if they buy back more, buy back less, depending on what's happening with their stock. But yeah, I mean, we talked about that. ASML, Lam Research at the top of our lists, I think. So interesting play. So some weakness still after all these months, after all these earnings reports, still the same stock price. That the stock market really doesn't care. Um, that's what I've seen, right? Have you noticed that as well? That in the last couple of weeks, great earnings reports. Sometimes the stock market is like, yeah, we don't really care at the moment.
Yeah, I agree, and I think this is the time where maybe the overall market might be somewhat extended. I'm not saying it is, but maybe it is. If it is, times like this when the market doesn't care for it, it just drags every good earnings down, and that's where you start to find some of those opportunities. Where, hey, look, maybe this one wasn't overextended, but the market believed it is, and it's kind of giving it some negative price action. I want to touch on this question here, Neil, from Matthew Johnson. So if Supermicro doesn't file and gets listed, does this hurt Nvidia before earnings? The market is crazy, so I'm gonna say it will create a lot of volatility in the um, AI space. So I wouldn't bet against it. Does it matter in the long term of things? No. Even if Supermicro gets delisted, they're still doing business. As usual, I think they're still going to sell plenty of AI servers. And if they don't sell the AI servers, there's someone else out there that will gladly take the chips that would be sent to Supermicro and get sent somewhere else. So long term, I really wouldn't care. Short term, yes, possibility for some negative price action.
Yeah, but luckily Nvidia reports tomorrow, so whatever happens, they could cancel it out. And to be honest, I think a lot of it is baked in. Plus, Nvidia strategically did talk a little bit more about Dell in the past couple of months, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. I know someone wrote that the 10K is out, but I am here looking at their SEC filings, and there is absolutely nothing that is out.
And we also got a first time listener here, Matthew Price. First time listening, really interesting and informative. Thank you. No, thank you, Matthew. We appreciate the support. And hopefully, I'm happy we're able to provide at least some great insights here and there, right, Neil?
Yeah, and if not, maybe some good jokes. That's always for free, so you have to take that. I do agree here with Max. Red days is to build wealth. Green days is when to collect. This is very, very well put.
I agree, Neil. I think sometimes people think some are perma bulls, but I think many are just opportunistic. I think as a long-term investor, I'm super happy when obviously stocks are green because my portfolio is green. But on red days, especially crazy deep red, it gets me excited because I feel like I'm able to add to stocks at cheaper valuations. And I know in the long term, I'm going to be able to reap the benefits. Obviously, it's all about timeline, right, Neil, and perspective. Unfortunately, there might be some of watchers that might be watching right now that might be closer to retirement. And obviously, redder days might be more impactful than to maybe someone as young as us right now. So I
Young,
think it's
young.
it's also a perspective thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I would be cautious because we've seen on social media, right, the game has changed. A lot of people can create content and always say buy the dip, even if a stock is trading at 1,000 PE or whatnot. And when you buy the dip every 5%, you are destroying your future performance if it just doesn't make any sense from a valuation standpoint. Even if it's a good company, if it's trading at such a high valuation, let's say a stock goes from 50 to $200 or whatever, it doesn't make sense for it to trade at $200 and everybody's saying, oh, buy the dip because it's at 180. Doesn't make much sense because it should maybe be at 100 or something like that and keep buying the dip. If you have unlimited cash, fine. But if you're limited with your cash position, you can get destroyed quite easily. I've seen a lot of people talk on social media in the last couple of weeks. At the start of the year, everybody's been showing their screenshots of, oh, I'm up 100%, whatever. Now it's been a couple of days of buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. Um, I think you can make a lot more money from impressions on maybe not impressions on next $2 there, but more maybe on YouTube. than from actually smartly investing in good companies. But yeah, red days overall, if you invest in good companies at a good price, always makes sense.
Agree, Neil. And again, it's all perspective, right? Andreas, I'm pretty sure I'm butchering. And if you know me, I always butcher every single name. Remember that many are fully invested with very limited cash positions. They need to sell before they buy the dip in other positions. So, yep. So, definitely true there. Um, let's see. Neil, question. I mean, we mentioned we're young. I do feel like I'm young, but I am 32 now. How old are you again, Neil?
Turning 31 in May.
Oh wow, you're not that far off. I don't know why. I thought you
No.
were. I thought you were still in your late 20s at
Yeah,
least.
that's what everybody
Uh,
tells me. And I'm like, you know
it,
what? That's fine. Because when I'm
mm,
50, I'll be looking like a 30-year-old.
um, uh, great thoughts here, Neil. Chillaxing. It's now a good time to get in on quantum stocks. What are your thoughts there, Neil?
I mean, as long as we get these comments, I think we're still in a bull market.
You- I'm I think there's two things that could be true. One, the technology could be evolving, and I think we talked about this actually.
Hmm.
It's deja vu now that the technology could be evolving, but maybe at the same time, I'm not excited about valuations. I mean, we recently just saw Microsoft announce their quantum chip, so it does showcase an advancement in this space. But I think the market sometimes expects too much in too little bit of time. So for me, this is more of a market. Um, that I just want to learn. I'm actually pretty curious about GTC Quantum Day. Um, but it's more to just increase the knowledge, not to find a secret stock that would happen. It's more to just increase the knowledge of where the space is going to go. Because I feel like Quantum Day for Nvidia, you've had Jensen who was kind of bearish in the sentiment, and you have CEOs who have been bullish in the stock. Um, it's going to probably be the nice middle ground because obviously I think even though just said 15 to 30 years, I think that might be too exaggerated. And then you have the next quantum CEO saying 1 to 5 years. And maybe that might be too exciting. So I'm going to guess it's somewhere in the middle. And I feel like this quantum day fire chat would be a nice kind of middle ground for everybody.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I mean, we've been hearing about quantum for so long. It's actually crazy. And essentially, we always say the same thing. Like, you don't, if you want exposure to quantum, you don't necessarily have to go with the speculative names. Like we've seen, Google has a chip, Microsoft works on it, IBM works on it, Intel works on it. I mean, of course, with the speculative names, you can be up 300, 400, 1,000% in a matter of months because of, I don't know, meme status or whatnot. But for the future, they are definitely responsible picks. There are future bets, and then there are just pure gambles out there.
Yeah, and to me, Neil, when I'm looking at revolutionary and new technology, I kind of try to create a timeline. And for me, I feel like robotics is a timeline that's before quantum, and I think robotics in general could be a big market opportunity as well. So it's I also when looking at there's so many new technologies that can happen. I mean, we've heard of talks of like that electric vehicle takeoff vehicles as well. You've heard things about like we saw a few years ago of metaverse. So I think there's just so many different technologies that one can invest in. And I like to kind of create a timeline of, hey, look, which one do I believe will happen before the others? And my timeline could be wrong, right? I mean, I think Mark Zuckerberg mentioned it pretty well. He mentioned that in 2020, if you were to ask him what was going to happen first, augmented reality adoption or virtual reality adoption, in 2020, 2021, he thought it was going to be virtual reality. But now with the progression of artificial intelligence, he says that it's crazy how quickly that technology can shift. And now he believes that augmented reality is actually going to be before virtual reality due to the advancements of AI. And this is someone right now who's front and center in this technology with engineering teams. So if someone like that is going to be wrong on timelines, imagine someone like me who doesn't have an engineering team working for them. I'm definitely going to be wrong, but I try to create that timeline to at least meet some expectations.
Agreed. Agreed. Good comment here. Neil looks like around 26 in my opinion. Good genes. Thank you very much. I'll pass it along to the family. I did play a 2 hour long tennis match yesterday, which was pretty fun, and I feel great today. So 30 is the new 20.
And here's Cleric saying that I look like 69. I actually don't know what he was talking about, but I'm gonna guess. um, Neil, so let's see what else. Any questions you see? We've got a lot of great questions, and I appreciate the support. Uh, Anything you find interesting that you want to tackle real quick, Neil?
Let's see. I've seen a lot of comments about SoFi. I think SoFi is still at the same price it was a couple of days ago. Still very bullish on the company. That's the thing. People need to understand that just because the stock price drops a little bit does not mean we should turn bearish. Actually, if it's a great company and if it drops down even more for no business reasons, I turn even more bullish. But SoFi, as you know, in the public portfolio is the number one position there. So currently not adding because I am planning a video to talk about that. So cannot buy today, but I like it. I like it. Fintech is a. There are lots of. I know we talk a lot about semiconductors here and tech in general, but I think fintech will have their day in the sun sooner rather than later. I'm saying this as if these stocks haven't moved, but I think SoFi did 100% move in the last 12 months or so, going from 7 to 15, 16. So we have moved quite a lot.
Definitely, Neil. Thoughts here, Neil, from Sanjay. To balance the tech and growth stocks, do you have any more defensive or high dividend stocks? If so, which ones? Sanjay, I'm going to say for me, no. I'm really just focused in this market in forms of, I think my biggest defense and diversification plays are just index investing, or the SPY, the Qs, or a semiconductor ETF, where I don't need to be right in which stock goes up. And I believe all those three indexes or ETFs would go up in the long term of things. So with time on my side, I don't need this money anytime soon. So I'm willing to take the bet on the stocks that I follow strongly in this growth play. And just to be somewhat on the safe side, I'll just invest in the overall market index. Neil?
Well, I mean, I hold Meta, I hold Alphabet, and they are all now dividend stocks. So those are my defensive my defensive plays, I guess. But no, I am and Disney also. But other than that, no, I'm not currently not interested in buying the Johnson and Johnsons, the Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and stuff like that. Maybe in the future might make sense, but right now I am fully focused on trying to grow the portfolio as much as possible. And like you said, the
Definitely.
defense is having a cash position, right?
Yeah. And eventually, right, Neil, I think the goal is for these growth stocks to eventually become, like you mentioned, right, those defense players. Eventually, who knows, Microsoft, Google, and Meta are going to be paying hefty dividends 20, 30 years from now. So I guess the goal is for growth stocks to eventually become those high dividend defensive stocks.
Yeah. No.
Neil, thoughts here. Are you guys invested in TSM? If not, would you? Canadian first, I'm not invested in TSM. I believe there's a growth opportunity. My biggest, Neil, I don't know if this is going to make sense, but my biggest reason for never investing in TSM is TSM is pretty much the semiconductor market. If the market is doing really good, TSM is going to do really good. If the semiconductor market is doing really bad, TSM is going to do really bad. So I feel like this one is going to move very similar to a semiconductor ETF just because its overall size and its overall exposure to everything in the semiconductor space. So I am not bearish in TSM, and this past year it has outperformed, I believe, the semiconductor ETF market. But I believe in a long-term average, those results are going to be very, very similar just because TSM is pretty much the semiconductor market. So I would just rather invest in the ETF than TSM, but there's definitely opportunities. Any thoughts there, Neil? Does that make sense? Am I just crazy?
No, makes sense. I mean, incredible company, right? Incredible company. And me specifically, of course, I'm going with the counter TSM, which is an Intel foundry, which hopefully will still exist as an Intel foundry in the future. But it seems like it because the stock did go down and keeps going down. So on the one side, I'm not break even anymore, but on the other side, I rather them not sell the business. So I'm happy.
Let's see. Yeah. Neil, I know you've been following this one. So, Felix, a few minutes ago, what are our thoughts are on Nebius?
Let's see. The stock is now back to prices not seen since, well, not that long ago. So um, it's true that it went down. I think from the peak, it's down 30% or so. Quarter was fine. I don't know why I got two comments under my video saying that, oh, they missed revenue by 40%, but I found it quite strange because I didn't know there were analysts covering this company with expectations just yet. So I don't think that every time you look on FinViz or whatever, the number is 100% accurate. Just so everybody is on the same page. Quarter was fine. Guidance was fine. The stock doubled basically before the earnings report since the deep sea crash all the way to close to $50. So again, these types of stocks, nobody asks any question when it doubles, but when it comes down, that's when the questions start to roll through the comments. And no, good company. Stock went up quite a lot. I don't think anything has changed from the earnings report. I'm not a holder of the company, just one that is watching from the sidelines.
Neil, I don't have any thoughts there, but I'll take this from Josiah. Jose, what's your opinion on why Nvidia is red? Do you think it has to do with Microsoft slowing down buying chips or just fear before earnings reports? I think it's a lot of everything, right? It's just a lot of noise. I mean, I think we do get those jitters before earnings. You tend to get a lot of negative reports coming before earnings. And then just the overall market is red today. And I do believe Nvidia kind of trades at a little bit higher beta than some of these other players. So it does move a little bit more. As a long-term investor, I don't really care much about the current movement. It's only down 1% right now, not even 0.81. So I think the market is just patiently waiting. They're patiently waiting for discussions on tariffs, on Nvidia's earnings report, on super micro stuff. I do believe we got some important macro data later this week on Friday. So there's just a lot of volatility, and that's the overall game in the market, right? Volatility, long term, nothing to worry about as of now. But in the tech space, anything can change, and that's why I like to follow this market pretty closely because tech, we've seen it. It moves at rapid levels.
Yeah, this is a very important question. Who came up with the advanced money destroyer name?
Would you happen to know? I think it was definitely one of those popular. I don't know. I've heard it from you, but I feel like I've
It,
seen it in other YouTubers as well.
yeah, I don't know. Probably on Reddit or something. Someone came up. I mean, I asked Grok for a couple of other nicknames, and to be honest, some of them are quite funny, but the others are a bit lame. People also call it always money down.
All right, Neil. We have a kind of a brand new investor. Plug here. I am 19. Do you guys ever short the market? I have watched you guys a lot. I am bull on bullish months and bearish on bearish months. I've been able to profit on average of 10% profit and loss each month. I personally don't short the market. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When I was younger and starting my investing career, I tried to do everything to um, maximize my gains. So what I thought was maximizing my gains, and sometimes I thought being more active would do that. As I gotten older, I feel like I would have made a lot more money than by not doing much. I mean, AMD, Neil, I think my original average cost on AMD was like $4 to $5. And I had a few thousand shares of it at that price point. And I did sell some just double back, like double growth. Um, Imagine if I didn't do anything from $4 to the stock being now even 100 after this down price. To me, I think eventually you end up learning that long term, doing nothing might be the best result. And that's not to like badmouth traders. I think traders have their own money ways, and there's plenty of traders that make money. That's just not the way I ended up doing.
No, I agree. I mean, traders can make a ton of money in one day, can also obviously lose a ton of money, but it's quite stressful, right? Because you have to be watching your screens, watching those candles every single second, hit the buy button, hit the sell button. It's too much. But yeah, like Jose, I don't short the market. I think there are enough long opportunities to not even consider going short one name, even if you think the stock has gone up so much, valuation doesn't make sense. With shorting, you can let's only make 100%, and that's only if it goes to zero. With going long companies, you can obviously, if you hold long enough and it's a good company, you can get way more than 100% return. So yeah, I'm not going short. And to be honest, sometimes you have to be bullish in bearish markets and bearish in bullish markets. Basically, the fearful when people are greedy when people are fearful.
And this is actually a pretty funny story. So Felix, how did I find AMD at those prices? I mean, it couldn't have been that popular. It definitely wasn't. Neil, funny thing is I was just starting to invest and I had just read the book. Um, it's this popular book by Peter Lynch, and he kind of tells you that, hey, you should invest in what you know, right?
Yeah,
And
one up on Wall
One Up
Street.
on Wall Street. Yeah. So I had just finished reading that book. And during that time, Neil, I was taking master class. I was doing my master's in electrical engineering. And I don't know why, every time I would like find a company name being discussed in one of my books, I would do research on it. And AMT was one of the companies that was just being discussed randomly on my book. So I'm like, oh, AMT, I feel like I've heard of them. My dad used to like make computers. He would build like my gaming computers, and sometimes he would use an AMT CPU. So I'm like, I've heard of these guys before. And that's how I ended up finding AMD. I had read that Wall Street. I was taking my master's classes, and it just happened to show up. So I don't know. I guess the world wanted me to be the semiconductor investor.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, believe it or not, maybe I'll find it for the next stream. I think we talked about that when I was previously an previous AMD shareholder and previous Nvidia shareholder. AMD as well. I think I bought my first shares at $22, $24, but obviously sold at. I mean, did a good return, sold at 64, but of course it went up and up and up and up. With Nvidia, I actually checked now on the chart. The first time I bought shares was after the first crypto bull run, right? And then there were some bearish reports about GPUs not getting sold because of crypto, etc., etc. So I checked, and a post split price, I bought shares of Nvidia at $4.65. Now imagine if I had held all of these shares until today, that would have been something. Although the returns were quite good because I sold not that long ago, um, but shouldn't have sold. Shouldn't have sold. Stupid, stupid amateur couch investor.
And now, we I just kind of follow up. Well, first that was comment was funny. Jose was the first person to ever make money off buying a school textbook. Very, very true. And Malarkey, what gave you conviction to invest in AMD at that prices? I think it was just me just trying to find something. I was very early on in my investing career during that time, so I can't say I was a genius about it. I think it was just luck that struck. If I do remember something, is I was hearing how Lisa's at that time the company was still in massive debt. I remember, Neil, and it was one of the first earnings call that I really wanted to listen to. And Lisa had this kind of like 4 or 5 year plan of reducing their debt to zero. It was they were heavily in debt at that time, and I'm like, you know what, this makes sense. She kind of knows what she's talking about, but I didn't really do any heavy analysis or anything. It was just again just luck and listening to a quick earnings call and saying, you know what, I mean, she seems like she knows what she's talking about. So luck strikes a nice amount of time, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, she does know a thing or two, right? She does know a thing or two in the last 10 years. Quite a turnaround. Quite a turnaround.
All right, Neil, it seems like we might have room for one or two more questions. I don't know if you want to take anything that I might have skipped over.
No, go ahead. I think we can end up maybe with a recap because I see a lot of people asking about SMCI. Maybe they've missed the part where we talked about that. So currently, I'll just share the tab here. This is on their website, SEC filings. Currently, I'll refresh it so you don't think I'm cheating here. Nothing has been filed just yet. Stock is still down, I don't know, 7, 8% or so. Deadline is today. They better do it today or they get delisted. Doesn't mean they'll go bankrupt, just means they will trade on OTC markets.
Definitely, Neil. And I think that's coming in for our hour. We appreciate it like always. And if you haven't, make sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe. And if you follow the other person, make sure to follow the other person. I think both Neil and I provide, not going to be biased, but I think we both provide some great insights in this community. So appreciate the support, and we'll be on Thursday. I'll probably be doing a lot of talking as Nvidia is reporting earnings. So it'll be hard for you to tell me to shut up this upcoming Thursday, Neil.
Yeah. You're also going live tomorrow, no, for the earnings?
Oh, yes, I think I am. Yes, yes, yes. Tomorrow evening, I have to. I mean, I'll definitely be on live tomorrow as well. But I mean, us back together.
Yeah.
It'll be Thursday.
It will be an interesting one. Hopefully the markets are in a better mood on Thursday. But yeah, for everyone that wants tomorrow earnings, go to Jose's channel for the live earnings report reaction.
Yeah. All right, guys, take care. And Neil, appreciate the stream. I don't know. It's this awkward closing stream now.
Yeah, indeed. Bye-bye, everyone.